How we went to Narnia. It's funny how you can know someone your whole life, but not really know them at all. Here, this whole time, I've been living in a parallel world to Summer Dawson, a nice girl I've known since kindergarten who I've always thought looked like the Lavender Fairy. But we'd never actually become friends. Not for any particular reason, it just worked out that way. The same way that Ellie and I were destined to be friends because Miss Diamond had sat us next to each other on the first day of school, Summer and I were destined not to get to know each other because we were never in the same classes. Except for PE and swim and assembly and concerts and stuff like that, our paths never crossed in lower school. Our moms weren't really friends, so we never had play dates. Sure, I invited her to my Flower Fairy birthday party once, but it really was because Ellie and I thought she looked like the Lavender Fairy. And sure, we'd hang out a bit at each other's bowling parties and at sleepovers and stuff. We were Facebook friends. We had lots of people in common. We were totally friendly. But we were never actually friends. So when she said, God bless America, it almost felt like I was meeting her for the first time in my life. Imagine finding out that there was someone else in the world who knew a secret that only you knew. It was like an invisible bridge had instantly been built connecting us, or like we had stumbled onto a tiny door in the back of a wardrobe and an accordion playing faun had welcomed us to Narnia. How I received my second surprise of the day. Before Summer and I could say anything else on the subject of the accordion man, Mrs. Watanabe brushed her hands together and said it was time to get to work. We spent the rest of the rehearsal time, since there was only half an hour left, listening to Mrs. Watanabe give us a quick overview of the dance while also periodically checking the weather app on her phone. We didn't really do any actual dancing, just some basic steps and a little rough blocking. We'll start getting into it next time, Mrs. Watanabe assured us. I promise I won't be late. See you Friday. Stay warm. Be careful going home. Bye, Mrs. Watanabe. Bye. As soon as she was gone, Summer and I came together like magnets, talking excitedly at the same time. I can't believe you know who I'm talking about, I said. God bless America, she answered. Do you have any idea what happened to him? No, I asked around and everything. I did too. No one knows what happened to him. It's like he just vanished off the face of the earth. It's like who vanished off the face of the earth? Asked Jimena, looking at us curiously. I guess the way we were squealing and carrying on, it did seem like something major had just happened. I was still kind of keeping my distance from her because of before, so I let Summer answer. This guy who used to play the accordion on Main Street, said Summer, in front of the A&P on Moore, he was always there with his guide dog. I'm sure you must have noticed him. Whenever you drop money into his accordion case, he'd say, God bless America. God bless America, I chimed in at the exact same time. Anyway, she continued, he's been there for forever, but a couple of months ago he just wasn't there anymore. And no one knows what happened to him, I added. It's like this mystery. Wait, so this was a homeless person you're talking about? Asked Jimena, kind of making the same ew face Savannah makes sometimes. I don't know if Gordy's homeless, actually, Summer answered. You know his name? I asked, completely surprised. Yeah, she answered matter-of-factly, Gordy Johnson. How do you know that? I don't know, my dad used to talk to him, she answered, shrugging. He was a veteran, and my dad was a Marine and was always like, that gentleman's a hero, Summer. He served his country. We used to bring him coffee and a bagel on the way to school sometimes. My mom gave him my dad's old parka. Wait, was it an orange Canada Goose parka? I said, pointing at her. Yes, Summer answered happily. I remember that parka, I screamed, grabbing her hands. OMG, you guys are totally geeking out, Jimena laughed. All this over a homeless guy in an orange parka? Summer and I looked at each other. It's hard to explain, said Summer, but I could tell she felt it too. Our connection over this, our bond. It was our version of the Big Bang. Oh my God, Summer, I said, grabbing her arm. Maybe we could track him down. We could find out where he is and make sure he's okay. If you know his name, we should be able to do that. You think we could? Asked Summer, her eyes doing that little dancing thing they did when she was super happy. I would love that. Wait, said Jimena, shaking her head. Are you guys serious? You want to track down some homeless dude you barely know? She acted like she couldn't believe what she was hearing. Yes, we both said, looking at each other happily. Who barely knows you? He'll know me, Summer said confidently, especially if I tell him I'm Sergeant Dawson's daughter. Will he know you, Charlotte? Jimena asked me, her eyes narrowing doubtfully. Of course not, I answered her quickly, just wanting her to stop talking. He's blind, stupid. That moment I said it, everything got quiet. Even the radiator, which had been making all these loud banging noises in the performance space until then, suddenly fell silent, as if the performance space wanted to hear my words echo in the air. He's blind, stupid. He's blind, stupid. He's blind, stupid. Another vomit of words. It's almost like I was trying to get Jimena Chin to hate me. I waited for her to hit me with a sarcastic comeback, something that would slap me like an invisible hand across the face, but instead, to my utter and complete amazement, she started to laugh. Summer started to laugh too. He's blind, stupid, she said, imitating the way I had said it exactly. He's blind, stupid, Jimena repeated. They both started cracking up. I think the horrified look on my face made it even funnier for them. Every time they looked at each other, they laughed harder. I'm so sorry I said that, Jimena, I whispered quickly. Jimena shook her head, wiping her eyes with the palm of her hand. It's fine, she answered, catching her breath. I kind of had that coming. There wasn't a trace of snarkiness to her right now. She was smiling. Look, I didn't mean to insult you earlier, she said. What I said about Auggie. I know you're not only nice to him in front of teachers. I'm sorry I said that. I couldn't believe she was apologizing. No, it's fine, I answered, fumbling. Really? She asked. I don't want you to be mad at me. I'm not. I can be a total jerk sometimes, she said regretfully, but I really want us to be friends. Okay. Aw, said Summer, stretching her arms out to us. Come on, guys, group hug. She wrapped her fairy wings around us, and for a second, we came together in an awkward embrace that lasted a second too long and ended in more giggles. This time, I was laughing too. That turned out to be the biggest surprise of the day. Not finding out that people have noticed me, not finding out that Summer knew the accordion man's name, but realizing that Jimena Chin, under her layers and layers and layers of snarkiness and mischief, could actually be kind of sweet when she wasn't being kind of mean. How we got to know each other better. The next few weeks flew by, a crazy blur of snowstorms and dance rehearsals and science fair projects and studying for tests and trying to solve the mystery of what had happened to Gordie Johnson. More on that later. Mrs. Watanabe turned out to be quite the little drill sergeant, lovable in her own cute, waddly way, but really pushy, like we could never practice enough for her. Drills, 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 on point, shimmy, hip roll, classic ballet, modern dance, a little bit of jazz, no tap, downbeat, half toe. Everything done her way because she had a lot of very specific dance quirks, things she obsessed about. The dances themselves weren't hard. The twist, the monkey, the watusi, the pony, the hitchhike, the swim, the hucklebuck, the shingling, but it was doing them exactly the way she wanted us to do them that was hard. Doing them as part of a larger choreographed piece. And doing them in sync. That's what we spent most of our time working on. The way we carried our arms, the way we snapped our fingers, our turnouts, our jumps. We had to work hard on learning how to dance alike, not just together. The dance we spent the most time working on was the shingling. It was the centerpiece of Mrs. Watanabe's whole dance number, what she used to transition from one dance style to the next. But there were so many variations to it. The Latin one, the R&B one, the funk shingling. It was hard not to mix them up, and Mrs. Watanabe was so particular about the way each one was danced. Funny how she could be so loosey-goosey about some things, like never once getting to rehearsal on time, and yet be so strict about other things, like God forbid you do a diagonal chasse instead of a sideways chasse. Uh-oh, careful, the world as you know it might end. I'm not saying that Mrs. Watanabe wasn't nice, by the way. I want to be fair. She was super nice. Reassuring us if we were having trouble with a new routine. Small steps, girls. Everything starts with small steps. Surprising us with brownies after a particularly intense workout. Driving us home when she kept us rehearsing too late. Telling us funny stories about other teachers. Personal stories about her own life. How she'd grown up in the barrio. How some of her friends had gone down a wrong path. How watching American Bandstand had saved her life. How she had met her husband, who was also a dancer, while performing Cirque du Soleil in Quebec. We fell in love doing arabesques on a tightrope 30 feet in the air, but it was intense. When I would go to sleep at night, I had so much information bouncing around my head. Bits of music, things to memorize, math equations, to-do lists, Mrs. Watanabe saying in her smooth East Harlem accent, "It's the shingling, baby." There were times when I would just put my headset on to drown out the chatter in my brain. I was having so much fun, though, I wouldn't have changed a thing, because the best part about all the crazy rehearsing and Mrs. Watanabe's drills and everything else, and I don't want to sound corny, was that Jimena, Summer, and I were really starting to get to know each other. Okay, that does sound corny, but it's true. Look, I'm not saying we became best friends or anything. Summer still hung out with Auggie, Jimena still hung out with Savannah. I still played dots with Maya, but we were becoming friends, like friends. Jimena's snarkiness, by the way, was completely put on. Something she could take off whenever she wanted to, like a scarf you wear as an accessory until it starts feeling itchy around your neck. When she was with Savannah, she wore the scarf. With us, she took it off. That's not to say I didn't still get nervous around her sometimes. OMG, the first time she came over to my house, I was a complete wreck. I was nervous that my mom would embarrass me. I was nervous that the stuffed animals on my bed were too pink. I was nervous about the big Time Rush poster on my bedroom door. I was nervous that my dog Suki would pee on her. But of course, everything turned out fine. Jimena was totally nice, said I had a cool mom, offered to do the dishes after dinner, made fun of a particularly hilarious photo of me when I was 3, which was fair because I looked like a sock puppet in it. At some point during that afternoon, I don't even know when it was, I actually stopped thinking, Jimenachin is in my house, Jimenachin is in my house, and just started having fun. That was huge for me because it was a turning point. The moment I stopped acting like an idiot around Jimena, no more word vomits. I guess that was when I took my scarf off too. Anyway, February was intense, but awesome. And by the end of February, we were pretty much hanging out at my place every day after school, dancing in front of the mirrored walls, self-correcting, matching our moves. Whenever we'd get tired or discouraged, one of us would say in Mrs. Watanabe's accent, "It's the shingling, baby," and that would keep us going. And sometimes we didn't rehearse. Sometimes we just chilled in my living room by the fire doing homework together, or hanging out, or occasionally searching for Gordie Johnson. How I prefer happy endings. One of the things I miss the most about being a little kid is that when you're little, all the movies you watch have happy endings. Dorothy goes back to Kansas. Charlie gets the chocolate factory. Edmund redeems himself. I like that. I like happy endings. But as you get older, you start seeing that sometimes stories don't have happy endings. Sometimes they even have sad endings. Of course, that makes for more interesting storytelling because you don't know what's going to happen, but it's also kind of scary. Anyway, the reason I'm bringing this up is because the more we looked for Gordie Johnson, the more I started realizing that this story might not have a happy ending. We had started our search by simply Googling his name, but it turns out there are hundreds of Gordie Johnsons. Gordie Johnsons, Gordie Johnsons. There's a famous jazz musician named Gordie Johnson, which we theorized could explain the rumor that the eye shop man had heard about our Gordie Johnson. There are politician Gordon Johnsons, construction worker Gordon Johnsons, veterans, lots of obituaries. The internet doesn't distinguish between names of the living and the names of the dead, and every time we clicked on one of those names, we would be relieved that it wasn't our Gordie Johnson, but sad that it was someone else's Gordie Johnson. At first, Jimena didn't really join in the search. She would be doing her homework or texting Miles on one side of the bedroom while Summer and I huddled around my laptop, scrolling through page after page of dead ends. But one day, Jimena pulled her chair next to ours and started looking over our shoulders. Maybe you should try searching by image, she suggested, which we did. It was still a dead end, but after that, Jimena became as interested in finding out what happened to Gordie Johnson as we were. How I discovered something about Maya. Meanwhile, at school, everything was business as usual. We had our science fair. Remo and I got a B+ for our cell anatomy diorama, which was more than I thought we would get considering I spent as little time on that project as possible. Jimena and Savannah built a sundial. The most interesting one was probably Auggie and Jack's, though. It was a working lamp that was powered by a potato. I figured Auggie probably did most of the work since, let's face it, Jack's never been what one would call a gifted student, but he was so happy to have gotten an A on it. He looked so cute, like a little happy but somewhat clueless emoticon. And this was my emoticon when I saw him. Heart eyes. By the end of February, the boy war had really escalated, though. Summer filled me in about what was going on since she had the inside scoop on everything from Auggie and Jack's point of view. Apparently, and I was sworn to secrecy, Julian had started leaving really nasty yellow Post-it notes for Jack and Auggie in their lockers. I felt so bad for them. Maya felt bad for them, too. She had become obsessed with the boy war herself, though I wasn't sure why at first. It's not like she had ever made any attempts to be friends with Auggie. And she always treated Jack like a goofball. Like back in the days when Ellie and I would point out how cute he looked in his artful Dodger top hat, Maya would stick her fingers in her ears and cross her eyes as if even the thought of him repulsed her. So I figured her interest in the war had to do with the fact that, quirky as she was, Maya had a good heart. It was only one day at lunch when I saw her hard at work on some kind of list that I understood why she cared so much. In her notebook, Where she designs her dot games, she had 3 rows of tiny Post-its with the names of all the boys in the grade. She was sorting them into columns: Jack's side, Julian's side, neutrals. "I think it'll help Jack to know he's not alone in this war," she explained. That's when I realized Maya has a little crush on Jack Will. Aw, that's so cute. Sweet, I answered, not wanting to make her self-conscious, so I helped her organize the list. We disagreed about some of the neutrals. She ultimately gave in to me, and she copied the list onto a piece of loose-leaf paper and folded it in half, then in quarters, then in eighths, and then in sixteenths. "What are you going to do with it?" "I don't know," she answered, pushing her glasses back up her nose. "I don't want it to get into the wrong hands." "You want me to give it to Summer?" "Yes." So I gave the list to Summer to give to Jack and Auggie. I think Summer might have assumed that I had made the list myself, which I didn't correct because I had helped Maya work on the list, so I thought it was fine. "How's the dance stuff going?" Maya asked me in her flat-voiced way that same day. I knew she was just trying to be polite since she couldn't care less, but she was good that way. At least she made an effort to act interested. "Crazy," I answered, biting into my sandwich. "Mrs. Otanabe is absolutely insane." "Ha, Mrs. Madanabe," said Maya. "Yeah," I said, "good one." "It's like you've been hibernating the whole month of February, though," said Maya. "I've barely seen you. You never walk home with us after school." I nodded. "I know. We've been practicing at lunchtime lately, but we'll be done soon enough. Just a few more weeks. The gala is on March 15th. "Beware the Ides of March," she said. "Oh, yeah, right," I said, though I had absolutely no idea what she was talking about. "So, want to see the sketches for my newest colossal dot game?" "Sure," I answered, taking a deep breath. She pulled out her notebook and launched into a detailed explanation of how she had stopped using grid patterns for her dots and was now using chalk art style graphics to create murals so that when the dots got filled in, they would have a dynamic flow pattern or something like that. The truth is, I had trouble following what she was saying. The only part I heard for sure was when she said, "I haven't brought my new dot game to school yet because I want to make sure you're around to play it." "Oh, sweet," I answered, scratching my head. I couldn't believe how bored I was at that moment. She started saying something else about the dots, and I glanced over at Summer's table to distract myself. She, Jack, and Auggie were laughing. I could guarantee you one thing: they weren't talking about dots. There were times when I really wished I had the guts to just go and sit with them. Then I looked over at the Savannah table. They were all laughing and having a good time, too. Savannah, Ellie, Gretchen, Jimena, all talking to the boys at the table across from them: Julian, Miles, Henry, Amos. "Isn't she awful?" said Maya, following my gaze. "Ellie?" I asked, because that's who I was looking at that exact moment. "No, Jimena Chin." I turned around and gave Maya a look. I knew she hated Jimena, but for some reason the way she had said it in this seething tone just surprised me. "So what is this thing you have against Jimena Chin?" I asked. "It's Ellie who ditched us, remember? It's Savannah who hasn't been nice to us." "That's not true," Maya argued. "Savannah's always been nice to me. We used to have playdates all the time when we were in lower school." I shook my head. "Yeah, but Maya," I said, "playdates don't count. Half the times our mom set those up. Now we get to choose who we want to hang out with, and Savannah is choosing not to hang out with us. Ellie is choosing not to hang out with us, just like we're choosing not to hang out with some people. It's not that big a deal, but it's certainly not Jimena Chin's fault." Maya peered over her glasses at the Savannah table. As I watched her, I realized she still looked exactly the way she did in kindergarten, when we would have tetherball games in the playground or go on fairy quests in the park at sunset. In some ways, Maya hadn't grown up that much since then. Her face, her glasses, and her hair, they were almost identical to what they used to be. She was taller now, of course, but almost everything else remained unchanged, especially her expressions. They were exactly the same. "No, Ellie used to be nice to me," she answered very surely, "just like Savannah was. I blame it all on Jimena Chin." How February made us money, too. By the end of February, we'd made $36. Mrs. Watanabe had been late to every single rehearsal, every single one. It got so that she would actually come to rehearsal with crisp dollar bills all ready in her hands to give us. She would literally show up, begin talking, hand us the money without even acknowledging it, and start the dance class. It was almost like it was the price of admission, what she paid to get through the door. So funny. Then at one point, halfway through the month, she herself suggested upping the amount of the penalty she would give us for being late from $1 to $5. This, she assured us, would definitely keep her from being late in the future. But of course, that didn't work either. And now, instead of coming to rehearsal prepared with crisp $1 bills in her hand, she would come in with crisp $5 bills, which she simply dropped on top of our backpacks by the door without saying a word. The price of admission. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. God bless America. Even Jimena said that now. How Jimena Made a Discovery. Ascension Transcends by Melissa Krotz, New York Times Muse Tech, February 1978. Ascension, in its world premiere at the Nelly Regina Theater, is the stunning debut by choreographer Petra Echevarri, recent graduate of Juilliard and winner of the Princess Grace Award, a mesmerizing reinterpretation of the dance fads of the 60s as seen through the Kodachromic lens of the author's childhood in New York City's barrio. This piece is a riveting and joyful homage to the scratchy, catchy, and soon-to-be-lost tracks of the decade, chock full of breathtaking leaps and innovative steps that belie Miss Echevarri's own training in the classical style. The work takes one particular dance, the shingling, and creates a visual narrative through which the rest of the work weaves. The reason I chose the shingling as the centerpiece of this dance, explains Echevarri, is because it's the only one of the dance fads of the time that actually evolved over the years to reflect the musical styles and genres of the musicians and dancers interpreting it. There are so many types of shingling: Latin, soul, R&B, funk, psychedelic, and rock and roll. It's the one dance that intersects every genre, the common thread. Growing up in the 60s, music was everything to me and my friends. I didn't have money for dance lessons. American Bandstand was my dance teacher. Those dance fads of the era were my training. Echevarri didn't begin formal dance training until the age of 12, but once she did, there was no looking back. Once I got into performing arts, and then Juilliard, recalls Echevarri, I knew I could do it. I could defy the odds. None of my neighborhood friends did. The hood is a tough place to leave. When asked why she chose the shingling as the main theme of her dance, Echevarri grows wistful. A couple of years ago, about a month before graduating from Juilliard, I attended the funeral of a childhood friend. One of those girls who used to come to my house for bandstand. I hadn't seen her for years, but I had heard she was in a bad way, had gotten in with the wrong crowd. Anyway, her mother saw me at the funeral and said her daughter had made a gift for me, a graduation present. I couldn't imagine what it was. Echevarri holds up a cassette tape. This girl had made me a tape of every shingling song from our childhood, every single one. Chinatown by Giusti Barretto, Shingling, Shingling by Kako and his orchestra, Sugar Let's Shingling by Shirley Ellis, I've Got Just the Thing by Lou Courtney, Shingling Time Baby by the Liberty Bells, El Shingling by the Latines, Shingling by Arthur Conley, Shingling by Audrey Winters, Nobody But Me by the Human Beings. All an incredible song list. I don't even know how she recorded some of them, but when I heard these songs, I knew I was going to create a dance woven around them. The three dancers in the piece, all recent graduates of Juilliard themselves, bring a distinctive vocabulary to the montage, drawing viewers into an experience that is at once life-affirming and joyful, without any bubblegum sentimentality. This lack of artifice owes as much to the rousing arrangements of songs, which blend seamlessly together, as it does to Echevarri's poignant narrative, modern dance at its best. How We Texted, Thursday, 9:18 p.m. Jimena, did you guys see the article I emailed you? Charlotte, OMG, is that really Mrs. Watanabe? Jimena Chin, crazy, right? Charlotte, are you sure? Who is Petra Echevarrar? Jimena, it's her maiden name. That's her, trust me. I was Googling Gordy Johnson tonight and got bored and started Googling Petra Watanabe. Summer Dawson, I just read the article. Unbelievable. That's the dance we're doing. Ascension. Jimena, I know. Amazing. Charlotte, she looks so young and pretty in that photo. Summer, oh, that's so sweet, Jimena. Jimena, what? That you were Googling Gordy Johnson. Jimena, yeah, well, now I'm curious too. I want to know what happened to him already. Charlotte, I shouldn't say this, but my mom thinks that maybe he's Summer. Oh no, I think my mom thinks so too. Jimena, sorry guys, I sort of think maybe I agree. Charlotte, R.I.P. Gordy Johnson? Summer, no. Charlotte, I don't believe it. Summer, me either. Jimena Chin, Kay, forget I said anything. Summer, said what? Charlotte smiles. Jimena, on completely unrelated note, do you guys want to sleep over at my house tomorrow night? Charlotte, yeah, let me ask my mom. BRB. Summer, sounds fun, just us? Jimena, yeah, come at 6. Summer, okay. Charlotte, my mom says fine so long as your parents are home. Jimena, natch. Charlotte, my parental unit, who is at the moment violating my personal space and reading my text over my shoulder, wants me to finish my homework, so I gotta go. See you tomorrow. Good night. Summer, nighty night. Jimena Chin, till tomorrow. Can't wait.